Thank you everyone for coming today. I'm Sasha Wilkins, as Sophie said. I'm the editor of the blog libertylondongirl.com and all its associated social media platforms. I'm also a published cookbook author, something that came about as part of my blog. Before I took the digital coin, I was executive fashion and beauty director at the Wall Street Journal in New York. And before that, I worked at Condé Nast and at The Observer as fashion editor. So I've had a fairly non-linear career, but I hope that makes what I've got to say more helpful because I've been on both the editorial side and on the digital side, and I've dealt with PRs with all those different hats on. I was asked today to talk about the right way to work with influencers because I think it's become clear over the 10 years since I started Liberty London Girl that there really is a right and a wrong way. I started the site in 2006. I'd seen one other blog at that point, which was Belle de Jour, but as my future career didn't really hang on being a cool girl, content-wise it wasn't much use to me. But there was no social media then, and I was scared that having a blog would be detrimental to my career. The idea that one day someone would want to give me presents, send me to fashion shows, put me on a lectern in front of a room of people as a blogger was so far removed from my reality. In fact, if you'd suggested any of this, I'd have said you were on crack, quite frankly. But obviously, times have changed, and I've been blogging full-time now since the beginning of 2009, just after I left the Wall Street Journal. If that gives you an idea of how much the world has changed, I gave up that shiny Sex and the City New York job to run a blog. We've got a whole lot of things we wanted to talk about today, but the first thing we were going to talk about was how to identify the right kind of influencer for your brand. And I'm going to presume, because of the nature of PR, most of you here are actually running your own brands as opposed to being publicists, although what I've got to say is relevant to both, I think. My motto continuously is one size does not fit all in the digital space. As well as the blog, I have a consultancy business called LLG Consults, and I've worked with brands as varied as Christian Louboutin, Tiffany & Co, and Topshop, to name just a few, as well as a lot of small independent brands too. And this is what I say to everybody. You can't just come up with one strategy and throw it against the wall and see what sticks. It just doesn't work that way. You need to build relationships. This is the most important thing of all. It's better to have 3 influencers that love your brand, love your shop, love what you do, than just throw stuff at 1,000 people and hope something might stick. Organic reach outs, building a network. Before you even start about thinking, right, I'm going to do a campaign to reach out to influencers, start building that network. I'm presuming you will already have, at the very least, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow people whose aesthetic you like. It doesn't always have to be about, are they useful? This is business. Find people you think are interesting, who are fun. Look at what your competitors are doing. See, that's a great transparency of social media platforms. You can see who your competitors are following, so you can go and follow them too. And I often say to people, other bloggers, for example, go and look at who I'm following because that will be useful to you, and the same works for retailers. So just build that network very naturally. Leave comments, chat to people if you're doing this yourself. But the 3 things then, once you start thinking about a campaign, hopefully you've already got your social media platforms set up. They're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but you haven't really put any money into it yet. So then you've got to think about budget, platform, and quality versus quantity. Budget. Well, really, I guess here what we're looking about is spending money versus gifting, and then amateurs versus pro bloggers or influencers. The world has changed in the 10 years that I've been blogging. Now there's so much pay for play out there, it actually makes me quite sad. I've always believed in relationship building. Some of my biggest, most lucrative campaigns have come 4 or 5 years after a brand's first reached out to me. I like to talk about a brand first before we even talk about money. But I'm afraid a lot of you will discover that you'll reach out to influencers on any platform, and their first response will be, show me the money. There are some insanely rude people out there who won't even reply to you. They'll just send you a media kit. You know what? I say, why work with those kind of people? You want to build relationships. A relationship is not someone sending you their media pack or asking for vast quantities of money when they've got 2 readers and a guinea pig. So Be very wary about people who ask you for lots of money when you've had no interaction before. I do not think those are the kind of people that you need to be working with. I'm going to move on to gifting in a minute, but I think it's become quite clear that it's usually money and gifting rather than money versus gifting these days. And as far as the influencers are concerned, there are people like me who's known, I'm a pro-influencer, pro-blogger, this is my job. There are lots of people out there who have their social media platforms as a passion project in their spare time. But don't be mistaken in thinking that because they're amateurs, they'll be happy for you just to give them a small gift and then you'll get all the coverage you want. A lot of those people will be hoping their platform becomes their job one day, so they treat it like a business even if they do it in their spare time. You also need to think about what platforms you want to engage with. Pinterest, I think, is where you put your beautiful content, but I don't think you really need to pay people in the Pinterest arena yet, but don't ignore it. One of my favorite facts is that 98% of the traffic to Martha Stewart's wedding website comes only from Pinterest. Granted, it's weddings and it's Pinterest and mood boards, but you can get an astonishing amount of traffic. If you have a transactional website, do not ignore the power of links from Pinterest. But really, any kind of paid campaign should be focusing on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Twitter these days, I think, less so. It's a great place to post news, links, things around your brand, deal with customer service. But we're all in a visual world. We're dressing people. Instagram is the obvious place, and I'm also quite sure that within your communities, especially if you're retailers, you'll have hopefully a strong Facebook community too. Quantity versus quality. How wide do you spread your net? Do you do a massive campaign or a small campaign? Have a real think about what you're targeting. What do you want out of this? You don't just want people to create a conversation. You need to make sales. It's got to be transactional. So I usually think it's better to identify a smaller amount of people to work with rather than just approaching all of the people. How to value your influencer. This is one of my favorite things I always say. Metrics are not everything. Sadly, people buy their followers, and not just their followers, they buy their likes and their comments too. It's quite cheap, it's everywhere. So you have to do your research. Look at people's Instagram accounts. Is the influencer actually engaging? Are they people who know the influencer in the online space? Are they talking? Are they engaged? Are there comments? Does the influencer reply back to the comments? You're much better off going for someone with, say, 10,000 followers and a hugely engaged community than you are someone with 100,000 followers, many of whom will be bots and other media who you have no interest in talking to. I thought I'd show you a little case study. This is me in France carrying an Angel Jackson clutch. I met these guys at the stands at London Fashion Week. We had a really nice chat. I thought they were great. My background, Condé Nast, Murdoch Land, all about money and advertising, so I take great pleasure in supporting small brands these days. And they said they'd like to send me a bag. I thought that was a really lovely offer. It arrived. I popped it on the blog in that picture, and I don't know if you can read this. The bag sold out overnight. It was £140. And as I said at the time on the blog, in these days, finding a snakeskin bag, £140, that's a bargain. Angel Jackson were thrilled. This was not transactional, only in that they had just sent me something, but they had not asked me. And this was back in 2010, 6 years ago, when I really did not have very many readers. I only gave up my blog anonymity at the beginning of 2010 when Grazia did a feature on who I actually was, because my blog had been anonymous until that point. So I was probably 18 months into my pro-blogging journey at this point in 2010, and I was already selling out products. I don't think there's any better example of how powerful a smaller influencer can be. Pure have also asked me to talk about what contracts should look like. I am eternally astonished at the amount of people who do not do contracts for their work with influencers, both the influencer and the brand. And I'm lucky enough to have talent representation, and my agents have been sent things like one A4 sheet with the information my agent sent them cut and pasted onto that piece of paper, which I'm pretty sure doesn't have much legal standing. So you need to have a contract. Find one online or pay a lawyer, and then you can just modify it every time you do a new piece of work with someone. but put everything in writer. There are some shitty influencers out there. You'll offer them money. They'll want money up front. They won't produce. They'll get your hashtag wrong. There are some unprofessional people on all sides of the arena these days. Make sure you have it in writing. And very quickly, I thought this was important to say, because people often miss out all of these things. They literally put in the contract what they want you to do and how much money. You want the duration of the campaign. Are they going to post these things over a week, a month, 6 months? What kind of coverage? Is it 2 tweets, an Instagram story, a blog post, a YouTube video, and a partridge in a pear tree? Get it written down. Get a content outline. What are they planning to do within those parameters? You may want to have content approval. I'm lucky, I was a journalist, I can do the spelling and the grammar, my clients pretty much trust me. But if you're not quite sure, if you think someone might need their hand holding or you've got a very particular message, make sure you ask for content approval. This is not journalism where we never give approvals. You'll find that influencers will give you approvals. Exclusivity. It's well worth putting a couple of paragraphs in there saying people cannot work with anybody in your competitive vertical for the period of your campaign and for a period of time afterwards. And don't be afraid to stretch it a bit. A first contract is a point of negotiation. After 6 months exclusivity, they'll laugh at you, but that's great. Take it down to a month, which is what you wanted in the first place. Image rights and licensing. Maybe you'll want to use their pictures in your work. Well, great. Ask for that. Make sure that the influencer knows that you're going to put the images on your social channels. Usually influencers will be thrilled about this because, of course, we all want more followers, so it becomes a symbiotic thing. But make sure you have it written down. Again, syndication. Do you want to take that blogger's content and put it on your own website? Do you want to try and package it out and sell it to other media? These are not always common, but they're important to know. Confidentiality. If you're giving a blogger information about your business, you do not want them going into a meeting with your next competitor in 2 weeks' time and going, yeah, I turned down that project with X brand. It was shit. They only had 30p to spend. You don't want anyone talking that smack about your business. Get them to sign the confidentiality. And importantly, how much are you going to pay them, the compensation? These things, super important. Influencer gifting. This is what Sophie mentioned when she introduced me, and I know it is a minefield. Obviously, you start off with, is it a sample or is it a gift? I put beauty products and food pretty much in the sample-based thing. I'm not always expecting these things and they turn up, that's fine. Gifting I tend to think of as clothing, accessories, anything that's sort of been designed for you. I don't generally get people telling me they're sending me beauty stuff when it arrives. Clothes and accessories, yes. So the golden rule is never, ever send an email that goes, Dear... Actually, first of all, never send an email that says, Dear Liberty London Girl or Dear Fashion Spy London. Find out their name. It's not hard. So, Dear Sasha, I'd like to send you a stationery set. It's really lovely. We'll put your name on it, and then in return, I'd like a blog post, 2 Instagrams, a tweet, an Instagram story, and can you pin it too? I'm like, no, go away. If they'd just sent me the stationery kit, I would probably have put it on my Instagram stories, and I might have tweeted it if I liked it, and maybe it ended up in another post, a bit like that Angel Jackson bag did. But don't demand content when you've never spoken to anyone any before. I get 3 or 4 of these a day. It's no way to build a relationship with anybody, demanding. Just say, hey, I love your style, can we talk? Or, I don't know, I saw that you were in Heathrow Airport the other day and your luggage looked a bit terrible. Would you like a new bag? You can guarantee at some point that influencer will photograph their luggage. Be clever, but don't just demand that people give you content. Don't send gifts out of the blue. Small flats, not much room, quite difficult. I live above a Sue Ryder shop. I'd say 50% of unsolicited gifts go to Sue Ryder. They love me. I thought to give you just an idea of how much stuff we all get sent, and please don't feel this is special pleading. It's very nice being sent things, but this is what arrived this morning before 11 a.m. I've just added this slide today. That's in an hour and a half. I got sent a suitcase, the new Marc Jacobs scent, a box of personalized M&Ms, some beauty products, and some Moët Chandon champagne. Thing is, apart from the scent, I knew all that was coming. They'd asked. Antler had checked I'd be in to receive the suitcase. It's got my name on it. So to be honest, I probably would have said no, but they'd personalized it. As a rule, though, do not monogram and personalize people's things. My real name is not Sasha, so I'm not a massive fan of things turning up with my name on them because it's not actually my real name. And that box of M&Ms was full of glitter. Don't do that either. There's going to be glitter in my tiny sausage dog's fur for the next week. So yes, gifting, just check. Email people and check before you send anything. So you've gone through, you've sent someone a gift, you've created a relationship, you've spent some money, you've done all these things. Now you want to know, has it actually had any effect, or am I just throwing money into the wind, burning dollar bills? Create a hashtag, put it in the contract, make sure they use it. Follow the conversations. You get out of social media and influencer work what you put into it. So if they're posting Instagram, go and have a look at it. Look at the people who are leaving comments on Facebook, on Twitter. Those are more contacts for you. If someone says they love a product and they've left that comment on the Instagrammer's page, go and have a look. Are they another blogger? Maybe that's someone who's already engaged with your product that you could reach out to. And use tracked links. I am astonished at how few people use tracked links. I probably get 2 requests a year to use them. They allow you to determine the effectiveness of your campaign if you're trying to drive traffic. Basically, if you want traffic to a landing page from somewhere that's not your own media, use a tracked link. Google Analytics have them, they're free. You can easily add code to a URL using the URL builder, and you'll be able to track all your campaigns in Google Analytics. And as a sidebar, if you're paying an Instagrammer, they can have 1 link in their bio. Make sure that you specify for the duration of your campaign that the link in their bio leads to your website. Again, it's something people never do with me. I offer it, and people are like, oh, that's a good idea. So get all the value you possibly can. Don't be afraid to ask for things. It's about that negotiation thing. Maybe you've got 10 key things you want out of an influencer campaign. Maybe 5 of them are important. Ask for all of them and see what you get in the end. So, what's the most important thing I said in this presentation? Pure asked me to come up with 2 takeaways. And mine would be, one size does not fit all in the digital space. With every influencer that you work with, work out what's best for that influencer, what they're interested in. Me, for example, I had a sausage dog, as I mentioned before. I did an amazing campaign with Barber, but they first reached out to me by sending me a custom coat for my dog. But they didn't do that for everybody. So, everyone they work with, they do a different thing with. It's really clever. Get to me through my dog, it's clever. And this build relationships, not a database. You can have all the names in the world, but if you don't actually know them and know how they work, it's pretty useless. You wouldn't send one thing to Bella that you'd send to Vogue. It's exactly the same thing in the digital space. So what should you do if nothing else? It's really simple. Do your research. Look at the people you want to be working with that you think really represent your brand and research them. On a micro level, for example, if you're a retailer, I don't know, in Cheshire, don't go and work with someone who lives in Dorset. It's pointless. Find the people, the micro-influencers who are near you. And here's my final example. I'm not sure if you can read this. I got a tweet from Wolfgang's Steakhouse, I have no idea where they are, saying, would you rather have a seafood dish or a juicy steak? And I replied back, neither. I've been vegetarian for 30 years. That tweet went viral. It's a pretty good example of how not to do your research.